Today, we remember Jesus' baptism. In the Gospel, it speaks of how Jesus went to the river because he wanted John the Baptist to go ahead and baptize him. And the Gospel says that John couldn't quite understand why Jesus wanted to be baptized, and he told Jesus, "You should be baptizing me." He thought Jesus was such a holy person, being the Son of God, and John was a sinner, so he thought Jesus should baptize him. But Jesus told him, he says, "No, go ahead. There's a way to baptize me." So John went ahead and he baptized Jesus. Wow. You know, looking at that, I think John was right that Jesus was more holy than him, but he knew that Jesus had a different plan, and so he obeyed him. So many times God has plans that we question and they don't seem to make sense to us, but we think our ideas and our plans are better. And when they don't coincide with God's, we're like, "No, that's not a good way to go about this. This is kind of crazy. That doesn't make sense." So, what should we do? Well, we can either say no to God's plan or we can trust Him, even though it may not make sense. We can trust Him. Often we read about different saints and Christians throughout history, and sometimes plans they think are perfect go awry, and they ask God, "What's wrong?" But they have to trust God that He will lead them to the path that He wants them to be on, and they'll understand in the long run. In our life, sometimes we make plans and things get messed up, but we have to trust that God knows what He is doing. And trusting Him means knowing and believing that God loves us and we're in His hands. And it's not easy for us to trust Him. Look at Jesus. Jesus trusted Him even though He was crucified. His trust in Him was infallible. And He got into heaven, and now millions and millions and millions of people are going to have everlasting life with Him. And the second thing is in reading the story about Jesus being baptized, is if we went clear down to the end of the gospel there, not today's section, but it talks about how after Jesus was baptized, He went to the desert. And the devil tempted Him for 40 days, and Jesus suffered through that temptations and struggled. Now, during His baptism, I'm sure that Jesus saw and John saw the divine and heard God's voice, talked to Him as His loving Son. But what happened next was just awful. The devil tempted Him and tormented Him. So it's kind of like with us, when we have this wonderful thing that we're doing, or whether we're going through a very dark period or difficult time, we don't understand why. But it's important to look at how Jesus made it through all of that temptation. And we have to try and resist that, even sometimes when we're sad or we're in this real negative state of mind. We all of those negative things that tempt us, we might give in. And if we do, we're lucky that God is merciful and will forgive us. So we have to continue to resist that temptation. And if we fail, trust that God forgives us, because He will forgive us. He wants to help us. He wants us to grow in His love. He loves us and wants us to have that relationship with Him forever. Yes, sometimes, He supports us and it's very comfortable, and other times it's not comfortable, but we have to trust Him and have faith that He knows what's best for us. Thank you, and God bless you.